Hello Internet, I am the Hero of Julios here again with another One Piece related video. This time I decided to combine two of my interests. I'm going to take my usual love of One Piece and combine it with my love of Dungeons and Dragons. For those of you who do not know, before the current events of our year, I was the Dungeon Master for 2 campaigns and have created my own homebrew world and all that. I'm still working on, hammering out some of the problems with it, but aside from that, I figured it would be a fun exercise to take a look into the books that I have and see if I can come up with how to play as a One Piece character in the Dungeons and Dragons world. We are completely following rules as written in the books. There is no homebrew to it. There's a little bit of flavoring needed, but that's between you and a generous DM. So, I should probably say what character I'm doing. So, I decided to start with Monkey D. Luffy, the captain of the Straw Hat Pirates. And it was a bit harder than I thought it would be, but most of the levels are pretty much how you would expect. So, for this combination, you will need the Player's Handbook, Xanathar's Guide to Everything, and Volo's Guide to Monsters. We're going to start inside of Volo's Guide to Monsters because in that book we have the monster races that we can pick aside from the normal human. Now I know what you're thinking, Luffy is a human. But we're going more for Luffy on a mechanical scale than we are on a actual real life person scale. Otherwise this would be much easier. We would just say, Luffy is a human and anything that is unarmed weapons, like just like a melee fighter kind of thing, and call it a day. So we're actually going to go with the Bugbear for this, and I have my notes with me right here. So you have Dark Vision, which we can associate with Luffy's observation haki. He's a long-limbed person, so Bugbears get an extra 5 feet to their range, which we can attest to Luffy stretching as a rubber man. We have the Powerful Build, where they are considered one size bigger when doing anything like lifting, carrying, pushing, pulling. And as we all know, Luffy is very strong despite his size compared to other characters in the One Piece world. Finally, we have the Surprise Attack, because most of the time, most enemies do not see Luffy coming, or they, underestimate him, or something Luffy does comes along and surprises his opponent at least the first time they fight. For examples, see when Luffy rammed into Smoker and Ace, though that wasn't an intended attack. More akin to this would be when Luffy was first fighting Gecko Moria and he swung underneath to attack from below, if you want to go with a more practical reason. As for background, I chose Outlander, mostly because Luffy lived just outside of the Kingdom of Goa. He was raised by bandits alongside Ace and Sabo, and he doesn't really have any intention of being a soldier for the soldier background, or if you wanted to go with the hermit, Luffy he did live alone, but he kind of didn't. So I just felt Outlander was the best choice given the backgrounds. Now, it is quite possible to make a custom background, in which case I would recommend just picking what you think fits Luffy best, but I wanted to go with a quick build straight from the books. As far as stats go, we're just going to assume that you're going with the standard array, so 15, 14, 13, 12, 10, and with the Bugbears +2 to strength and +1 to dexterity, you're going to want to put the 14 and 15 in strength and dexterity respectively, allowing them both to plateau at a 16. From there, you're going to want to put the Constitution as 13, your Charisma is 12, your Wisdom is 10, and your Intelligence is 8. As we all know, Luffy's not the smartest guy in the room. Ever. Because of that, I put Luffy's Intelligence lower than his Wisdom. As we've seen, Luffy is a master of figuring out how to change a battle in the middle of battle. Ideally, we'd have a much higher Charisma stat and Constitution because of how Luffy is very durable and has that indistinguishable quality that makes people love him. But for now, if we're going by the space, the basic rules, these are the stats we're going to have to live with. So, without further ado, with our first 5 levels are going to be in Monk. At level 1, you get the Unarmed Strike as a bonus action if you use the attack action with Unarmed Strike. So Luffy is a punchy boy. Luffy punches a lot, so I just figured this would be a good first choice. At second level of Monk, you get Flurry of Blows, Patient Defense, Step of the Wind, and Unarmored Movement. In short, Unarmored Movement, Luffy doesn't wear any armor, therefore it helps. Step of the Wind is more akin to Luffy's Gear Second. Patient Defense is similar to Luffy's Observation Haki. And Flurry of Blows is much like Luffy's beloved Gum Gum Gatling. Now at level 3, you're going to want to choose Way of the Sun Soul from Xanathar's Guide to Everything. Now the reason for that is because it turns your unarmed strikes into a 30-foot ranged attack. Now granted, it is a ball of light that you're throwing according to the book, but a generous DM could just as easily say your arm stretched all the way over there. At level 4, you're going to want to put your ability score improvement in Constitution. Not only will this increase Luffy's Constitution stat up 2 more stats, but it's also going to increase his HP. It's Luffy, and we all know he's going to be the frontline fighter for most of the battle. At level 5, you get Extra Attack, which is pretty obvious that this is just more attacks from Luffy. At this point, we're looking pretty close to how Luffy would be at the end of, the East Blue Saga. He's got a lot of punches, and he's got a lot of durability from those punches, but he's not quite that Luffy we know yet. For the next 4 levels, we're going to be dipping into Barbarian, mostly because at level 1 for Barbarian, which will be our level 6, you get Rage. Now, I'm not going to say Luffy is an angry guy, but Luffy would fit the Barbarian raging and charging into battle without a single plan. In addition, at level 2 for Barbarian, this would be level 7 for us as a character, we get Danger Sense, which will help out with our Haki as we will be able to be more alert to the world around us, allowing us to dodge incoming attacks better. Unfortunately, the Barbarian's Reckless Attack only works with a melee weapon, not a melee attack. So all those punches and stuff will not get the bonus of the Barbarian Reckless Attack. However, if you are playing with the idea of Luffy loosely, there have been a couple times where Luffy has been running around with swords like a madman. So technically Luffy does do the Reckless Attack. Actually, now that I think about it, yeah, Luffy does do the Reckless Attack. Never mind, this level works just fine. There's nothing wrong with it. So for the 3rd level of Barbarian, we're going to go into Totem Warrior. The reason for that is because we want to get the Bear Totem ability, which when Luffy is raging, he will take reduced damage, which is half damage, from anything that isn't psychic damage, because as we all know, Luffy is weak to anything cerebral. Finally, at the 4th Barbarian level, we'll be taking the Alert feat. Now, I was torn between this and the Grappler feat, strictly because Luffy is good for both of those things. But the reason for the Alert feat is 1, Luffy's Observation Haki is pretty amazing, and 2, it's more for the initiative bonus, I guess I would say, because again, Luffy is always the first into the fray and the last out, which is why we're going to be working on the Constitution score as we increase our levels. For our next 2 levels, we're going to be dipping into Fighter, but only the first 2 levels of it. The first level is nice. We get a Second Wind, which is good. It, increases our durability a little more as Luffy. Unfortunately, the fighting styles require you to actually have weapons or a shield, which Luffy doesn't really use, aside from, like I was saying, with the reckless attacks. However, we are dipping into that 2nd level of Fighter for the Action Surge. Combine this with the, how the monk gets as many punches as it does. Action Surge will allow us a second action to double that even further, and you go from a Gum Gum Gatling to a Gum Gum Storm, which is exactly what we're trying to go for here. So, the next 5 levels after that, we're going to be finishing off our levels in Monk. Starting at level 6, we get Key Empowered Strikes, which is similar to Armament Haki, allowing us to attack enemies that are normally resistant to normal weaponry, but we're attacking as if we have magical attacks. And then we also gain the Searing Arc Strike, which I'm pushing it a little bit, but the Sun Soul gets the Searing Arc Strike, which allows them to cast Burning Hands. This can be kind of similar to Luffy's Red Hawk attack. I know it's not a perfect comparison, but it's a great place for when you don't have any other options. At level 7, we get the Monk's Evasion ability, which allows us to, when we fail a dexterity check, we take half damage, and when we succeed on one, we take no damage at all. Combine this with the danger sense we got back in the Barbarian levels, and you have Luffy's ability to pretty much dodge lightning itself. In addition to evasion, we also get Stillness of Mind, which allows you to use an action to get rid of being charmed or frightened, because, as we know, Luffy feels neither fear nor lust. For your 8th level in Monk, we're going to take our ability score improvement and use it instead to get the Durable feat. Not only will this increase our constitution to a nice even number, but it'll also, because of that even number, increase our HP even further. At level 9, you get the Monk's ability to run on walls and liquids, which, if I'm being honest, seems a lot more like a Brook thing, but we're really trying to get to level 10 of the Monk, so. Our final level in Monk is Purity of Body, which, thanks to Magellan, Luffy is immune to most poisons and diseases. Well, maybe not so much diseases, but Luffy is immune to a lot of heavy and deadly poisons. So now you've reached level 15 with Luffy, and I know what you're thinking. What other class could we possibly put into this? It took me a bit to think about it, but honestly, Sorcerer is the class I chose, and I'll tell you why. In Xanathar's Guide to Everything, there is a subclass of Sorcerer that basically makes you an Elementalist. Now, normally that wouldn't really be a Luffy kind of thing, that, you'd probably think that'd be closer to Nami. However, at level 1, you get the ability Wind Speaker. And Wind Speaker allows you to speak Primordial, which is the language of earth, fire, wind, and water elements. I kind of associate that with Luffy's ability to hear the voice of all things, similar to how Gold Roger is able to do that. In addition, at level 1, you get Tempestuous Magic, which allows you to basically jump away when casting a spell immediately before or after, which just again associates with Luffy's speed. Now for spells in the first level sorcery, we're going to go with Thunderclap, which is similar to Haki, how anything nearby with just a single stare, Luffy can create a thunderous kaboom. I mean, it's not actually audible, but in the anime they make it look audible, so I just figured it'd be a nice little flavor thing. In addition to that, we are going to take True Strike, mostly because it just fills out our cantrips, but on the rare occasion Luffy does aim, he usually strikes pretty hard, so we'll let it go for that. Our third cantrip is going to be Prestidigitation. Prestidigitation. Presto Changeo. Which we're using to allow us to create, slight illusory effects, mostly so that we can have an X on our arm if we ever need to show the symbol of friendship. Speaking of friendship, our fourth cantrip is going to be Friends. Now, unlike Luffy's indescribable ability to make anyone his ally when he needs them to be, Friends wears off. Sadly, that's not really something we can change, but again, we're going for the flavor of Luffy. There's no way to actually play it without changing a lot of the rules of the game. For your first level spells, you're going to go with Thunder Wave, which is kind of like Luffy's Conqueror's Haki, being able to, cause a damage to enemies surrounding you and then they fall over. And Shield, which is similar to Armament Haki. Our second level of sorcery, we don't really gain anything important. There is Flexible Casting, which allows us to gain back some of our sorcery spell slots. It's kind of like Luffy's Never-Ending Endurance. Aside from that, we're going to take the Jump spell as our next spell because of Gum Gum Rocket. Our next level in sorcery, we are going to take two meta magics. Distance Spell, which allows you to use Thunderclap at a greater distance, as well as Thunder Wave. and Subtle Spell, which will allow us to use Thunderclap without speaking or moving our hands, similar to how Conqueror's Haki actually works. We also gain a new spell, because now we have access to second level spells. For this one, I've chosen Enlarge Reduce for no reason other than Gear 3rd, so that we can throw a giant pistol. And finally, our 4th level in Sorcerer, we're going to take the Tough Feat to give Luffy 2 more HP for every level that he has. Altogether, that'll give Luffy an additional 40 HP on top of what he already has from being a monk and his Constitution score. So, once you've put all that together, you got a level 20 character. That's Luffy. The progression that I gave is just a recommendation based on kind of how Luffy progressed through the show. That's the reason why I went with Sorcerer last, because that's more of Luffy's hockey-based abilities, which he doesn't get until after the time skip. Aside from that, though, let me know in the comments what you think. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you think sorcery's a bit too big of a stretch for Luffy? Because, I mean, I kind of did a little bit, but I wanted to fill out the last 4 levels. Let me know if I should do this again, if, you're watching this and you enjoyed it. Because I think if I was going to do this next, I'd probably pick Zoro, obviously, go down the list. But I'd probably pick Lizard Folk. Yeah, that's a good idea. Well, anyways, this is the Hero of Julios, Xing out.